All right, it's very encouraging that we hear that oil is in Jamaica somewhere. So joining us right now is Brian Richardson, Manager of Oil and Gas at the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica. Good morning to you.
Morning,
How are you?
Not too bad. Morning, Empress. Morning.
Let's get straight into it. We've been hearing that there's some oil has been seen in Trelawney. Tell us about... Yeah, tell us more.
With regards to the find in the discovery in Trelawney, it's one of the indicators of the petroleum system that we have here in Jamaica, and we've been trying for the better part of 60 years to try and encourage persons to explore in Jamaica, and we've been able to, over the last 4 years, locate areas onshore where we can say for certain that we have found indicators of oil. We've always had indicators of gas, which is on the north coast in St. Anne, but no, we've been able to locate actual oil bubbling up from the ground.
When you just said actual oil, but when you said indicators of oil, what exactly does that mean?
All right, so oil and gas creation is almost universal. It's in most places, but to have it in a commercial quantity is one of the things that, you know, we don't know if we're there or not. What the indicators tell you is that we have a working petroleum system, meaning we have something that's there that's called a source rock, we have something that's cooking it to create the oil, and what we're hoping for now, which is the next step, is find somewhere where it's reservoired or contained. Hopefully we have an accumulation there that we can probably exploit.
So how do you continue this study and research and digging to find out?
It's funny that you said digging, because it did take a little bit of digging by members of my team to actually find the seep that we found.
So it didn't just appear?
No, it didn't just appear. We did some work.
Just to be clear, so you did some digging. We found a little bit. Right. Now how do we continue researching to see where?
So what we want to do now is hopefully this will interest an explorer, someone like, say, a Tullow or, you know, an onshore person that would want to take this a little bit further. They would then come in, do some additional work, seismic, do some additional field work, and then hopefully if they're interested enough and they see something like a structure that may contain something, then they say, okay, fine, we'll be willing to drill.
You said onshore a couple of times. Is there a possibility that offshore you might have?
Well, it's a good question, Neville. Offshore is where Tullow Oil is exploring right now. So offshore is where we thought all the potential was. And so that's what we had promoted at the PCJ, because we weren't able to locate, say, an oil seep like what we've just found onshore. We're hoping now that we can put both on the market and say, look, we have these areas that we'd want persons to explore. Would you be interested to look at Jamaica?
Is there anyone locally that could do this, or do you have to bring in someone to?
It's more than likely that we'll have to bring someone in, because I don't think we have an oil and gas industry here in Jamaica, and so we would certainly have to find someone who is a proven explorer, just like how Tullow is. Everyone knows that they've gone into places where we have never found oil before, and they've turned them into producers. Not to say that is what Jamaica will happen to Jamaica, but certainly what we will do is look at a company that has proven themselves in the past and say, look, would you guys be interested? And if they are, then certainly we try to negotiate an agreement.
Is that an initiative that the government can take on? Because when I hear the word oil, I think of the economy just booming if we were to find out that it was onshore. And if that does happen, how can the government or, you know, Jamaicans invest in maybe bringing in this international company? But how can it boost our economy? What is the potential there?
Okay, the point that you're speaking about, Empress, is a couple of years on.
But we have big visions.
I
have to think ahead, because
and there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Like, what do we do now? I mean, talking about people coming in from overseas, how do we as a country look at this as an investment for us and exploring with partners who have the expertise? Well,
let me start off by saying that anything that we do locate in Jamaica is owned by the state.
Okay.
So there's no concern with regards to that.
Okay.
What we do is to allow an explorer to come into the country, like Tullow, to then use their resources and explore, because it's a risk game. It's like 1 in 10 wells that are drilled are successful. So 1 in 10.
Okay.
Right. So if you're looking from that point of view, I don't think the government has the funds to spend on 10 wells to hope that 1 is successful.
Yes.
So what we've done is partner with persons who have the expertise, they have the cash to care, and let them come into the country, let them explore, and it's at their risk.
Yep.
So they do all that, they spend their money, they look, and if there is something, then that is actually developed jointly with the government.
Yeah, we use the word seep, but you said a little, and then you just said well.
Right.
If for whatever reason it is found that oil is here, I know
Right.
Venezuela has oil, I know Trinidad and Tobago,
Right.
they're oil producers. Is this an forever thing, or could it be just a, as you said, just a little, and we find that and that's it?
Well, let me take you through the steps. So you're talking with seep and then to a well.
Right.
All right. So the seep is the indicator. So it's saying something subsurface is creating this oil based on the organic material that's there, and it's coming up to the surface. Now, what we would want to find is accumulations that are substantial. Yeah, we haven't found that. Now, to get
Substantial, sorry to jump in, substantial would mean what? It lasts for 5, 10 years, whatever.
5, 10, maybe 15 years.
Right, okay.
Right. So it's a large enough
Okay.
hole in the ground that holds enough oil in there or gas. And then from that point, what will then happen is if the geological work says there's a structure that could be tested, and when tested, that's where you'd come in and drill a well. And then if you do drill a well and there's a discovery and there's something actually coming out and they test it and says it's large enough, then hopefully we'll get to a point where we start to produce that. And at that point, that is where we would then talk about hopefully seeing something.
Timeline for that?
Timelines. I'll give an example. Guyana, which everyone knows about right now, they've been in the game for about 20 years. When they went to drill the well in 2015, I believe, Shell was with Exxon. Shell got cold feet and said, I don't trust what's going on, I'm going to pull out. So because of the risk. They said, no, they're not going to do it. They got some other partners and they drilled. So it's a long-term game. So you're looking at 10 to 15 years.
Before we could tell whether it's...
Let me keep it at 10.
Before we could tell whether it's actually there or not.
Yeah.
Is there any other area in the country that something might be happening, or is this just this area?
It's just this area that we're looking at right now. And I think we say we're trying to promote it so persons would be interested in
How deep do you go?
Whew. Deep. One of the wells that have been drilled in the past went to 16,000 feet.
Wow. 16,000.
So it's a couple of miles almost. Yeah. And they didn't find anything. So that's on the ballpark that we'd have to go to get to.
Can I ask something? I don't know that much about oil. Is there different types of oil?
There are.
So what did we find? What kind did we find?
Well, we haven't come to the point where we've put it down to a market just yet, but what we do know is that it's come from about 60, 70 billion years ago. It's a marine, it's Cretaceous. So it's pretty deep, and that we haven't taken to the point where we're going to say, okay, fine, do an assay and say the type of oil and if we can actually develop it, because it's not a commercial quantity just yet.
Actually sounds exciting.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Actually sounds exciting.
And I can tell you, I mean, persons on the street, everyone is just beaming with hope because of this. And I think the PCJ is poised to make sure that we do the right things and make sure we take the right steps.
Because who are we currently taking oil from? Which countries?
Venezuela.
Several. Venezuela being one, and I think probably Mexico and probably Colombia and others.
Okay.
Sounds exciting.
I think it is.
I'm sure we will hear if it goes from a seep to a well.
What we want to do is get someone to come into Jamaica and take one of the blocks and say, yes, we're going to do all that hard work and spend our hard-earned money.
Well, millions are watching right now on onespotmedia.com, so you never know.
Never know. You're quite right.
To see
You never know.
And I can remember years ago we said they found gold in Clarendon.
They did indeed. They did indeed, but it wasn't where you could pick it up like that. It was actually really fine and mixed in with the molecules. So we had to do a lot of processing to get to it.
Thanks a lot. Manager of Oil and Gas at the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, Brian Richardson.